it's Puka. I mean, to come up
It's
to
Puka.
basically just not be even a chance of playing, and then playing well on basically a 50% snap count, 60% snap
Yeah.
count, whatever it was. Good for Puka, man. Just awesome. And we welcome you to your week 8 recap, believe it or not, of Wilk and Wiss, your bi-weekly update on Utah athletes in the National Football League. And we like to highlight you, the fan, as well. He's back.
Hello.
In the words of Michael Jordan, I'm back. Cole Wissinger returns to the
I'm
program.
back. I didn't want to do a flu game, and so I just took the night off because I'm not Michael Jordan. But I'm back now.
I legit did not even put flu game together when I thought of the I'm back quote. Yeah, man. You were MIA on Thursday. I was very MIA over the weekend. I did not get to watch a lot of professional football
Yeah, but
this
tell the
weekend.
people what you did get to watch. What were you up to over the weekend,
So,
Tanner?
so you and I chatted Monday night,
Mm-hmm.
and it just seemed like it was going to be a pretty normal week for me. Well, Tuesday morning, I get an email. The game I'm supposed to call in Cedar City on Friday has been moved up 1 hour. And I think,
Hmm.
Vegas is really close. It's a lot cheaper to fly out of Vegas than it is some other places anywhere in Utah,
Always.
at least to places like Orlando, Florida,
What's
where
what's in Orlando, Florida this weekend, Tanner?
my where BYU plays UCF,
Uh-huh.
and my dad had tickets for about a month. They had Disney World trip planned, he and my mom.
Dang.
The stars align, brother, and had some miles. Thank you, Capital One Venture Card, for those double miles on every purchase. Add up, and it was a good time.
That's awesome.
It was pretty crazy. Literally ended my post game show, hopped in the car, filled up, got a due for the road. Only made one bathroom break. Made it with plenty of time.
Yeah.
The other thing I had going for me was the time difference, right? You gain an hour going to Vegas. So it's
Uh-huh.
a red eye
Uh-huh.
flight. It's really 1 a.m. in
Yeah.
Utah. So
This time of the year, Vegas is not on the same time zone. I guess it's never on the same time zone as Utah. Sometimes it's the same as Arizona
right,
because Arizona
yeah,
doesn't do the daylight savings.
right. Arizona's the one smart state in the whole
And
union
Hawaii,
that does this.
because of course Hawaii
In
doesn't
the
need to save their daylight. They
no,
got plenty.
in the continental U.S., I should
Yeah.
say, Arizona's the one smart state that does that. But yeah, man, it was crazy. Landed in Orlando at 7 a.m. Took an Uber to my parents' hotel. They were already at Disney's Animal Kingdom, so they just left a card for me at the front desk. Just check in basically, and took a nice 4 hour snooze,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went to the game. Had a great time. 8
BYU
0,
wins.
8 0.
Mm-hmm.
Lot of royal blue in Orlando that weekend. That stadium, not a very big stadium, very similar to Utah State's, is what I kind of thought in terms of
Hmm.
size. Not a bad seat in the house, which is kind of unique for.
And UCF, so are they in Orlando, Orlando? Is that Camping World Stadium? Like, is that where they play that bowl game and where they were playing the
No,
Pro Bowl for a second?
no, it is not. FBC Mortgage is what I want to say
Okay.
sponsors this.
Not a sponsor of
And
this show, so you can screw it up if you want. Fine.
sure, yeah, yeah. No, it's referred to as the Bounce House
Yeah, yeah,
where they
yeah.
play. Awful scoreboards. I'm not to offend any UCF people, but
They probably would have said that about BYU a couple years ago, you know?
right. I mean, it. No, it. Hoping that Big 12 money starts to kick in for them with some things. A cool little stadium, though. I mean, there was no bad seat in the house. We
Mhm.
were right next to the band, which I was a little worried. When my dad realized that, he thought, "Oh shoot!" Like, you know. But it was fine. It really wasn't that big of a deal. Hit up Disney Springs that night after for a taco cone. So
Hmm.
the shell is in the shape of a cone, like a nice
Yeah.
flaky type taco. Amazing tri-tip. I mean,
A-
perfectly
As you
smoked.
posted on your social medias, it's all about the
The
cones.
cones.
The cones.
Because then I stop in Vegas on the way back and eat it. It's called a Manos. I wanted to try it for like a year now.
Mm.
They do this bread cone that they just stuff pasta and whatever sauce and ooze cheese over the top of it. And
Yeah.
so I didn't even put that together till I'm driving home. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the cones of Dunshire.
I was
Just
just eating
food.
cones all weekend.
Just food. Yeah. And I had a Disney churro. Look, there's a lot of good things about a BYU win, but when you have a BYU win combined with a Disney churro,
Heaven.
shout out to the people of San Antonio. Even though I was not anywhere near Texas this weekend. But Cole, it was a wild Sunday. I'm driving home from this trip. Didn't make
Mm-hmm.
it home until Sunday night. Football had just kicked off when I got home. I'm exhausted, ready to basically go to bed.
Arguably the only unentertaining game of the entire Sunday slate
Which,
you got
yeah,
home
it
for.
it kind of was just, and I did, I guess, watch the last 2 minutes of it because I was still awake in bed, and I checked the score and was like, oh, I'll just
Yeah.
throw this on my phone with Peacock. But a wild week. I mean, just a lot of crazy stuff happened. And I was planning on just pulling Red Zone up on my phone and just listening to that audio as I drove. And for
Yeah.
some reason, we were just having issues with that on the phone.
Mhm.
So, but let's get to the rundown. Thursday night
Let's do
football
it.
was very interesting. I picked this game not knowing Puka Nacua was going to play, and then he
And Cooper Cup,
plays.
it turns
And
out.
yes, and I had a hunch Cup was going to play. I knew he
Yeah.
was close the week before, but yeah, the Rams get a big win, 30-20 over the Minnesota Vikings. Nakua's return on a limited snap count made every snap count. 7 receptions, 106 yards. Taki Taimani did have a tackle for the Vikings,
Mm.
but man, welcome back, Puka. That was really cool to see.
See, I wish I'd had a hunch that the refs at the very end of the game would have decided to just all collectively close their eyes and
Duh. That was bad. That
look.
I felt for Viking fan.
And it was still, they had a long ways to go, but
Sure.
it's a one score game and you want to have that chance at the end. The Rams defense still isn't good, but this sets the stage for a lot of just really close,
Uh huh.
decided in the final 2 minutes kind of games that we would get for the entirety of Sunday. I got that game wrong. Also, your guest who held down the fort for me was you were solo podding along with Connor. Our guest misses the Thursday night game and misses the first game we're going to talk about on Sunday, but goes 13-3 on the week. He's our new leader in the clubhouse
It,
for the Visa
that
gift card.
that's funny because he sent me a text saying he thought he was toast at one point. So that is hilarious. Condog, you have a
Because things
chance,
turned
man.
around. Like
Yeah,
everything in all Sunday was being decided at the very last second, and
yeah,
he was on the right side of all of them.
yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Uh, let's get to Sunday, man. There's a lot
Yeah.
to get to. Let's do it. Let's jump in.
All right. Jets Patriots. Utah connections here is that Zach Wilson is still a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers, apparently. But in all reality, no firm Utah connections in the New England New York Jet. 25-22. Uh,
Mm.
Jets drop another one. And so we all picked the Jets. And then after this, yeah, Connor's only gonna miss one more.
You texted me ha 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 on Saturday night about a particular game that happened. I was very tempted to text you back ha
Mm-hmm.
ha 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 Jets because and like Drake May got hurt early. This wasn't like some revolutionary
Yeah.
Drake May breakout game. Like that's kind of because I didn't realize that where I'm just following scores, checking every hour or so as I'm driving. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just
He did get a
fascinating.
rushing touchdown early on, so by the skin of my teeth, by about 2 fantasy points, I end up beating our buddy David in the Dynasty League that we are all in.
Oh boy.
Arguably our most important league that we all
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah.
That was me and David, and that was down to the wire. And I started Drake May, and even after only a half, because he got a rushing touchdown, it was like 11 points. That's respectable in your super flex. Nothing really burned me, and I had CD Lamb, which
Mm.
we'll talk about a little bit
Mm-hmm.
later on.
Philadelphia beats Cincinnati 37-17. Zach Moss has been more of a receiving back these last few weeks for the Bengals.
Yeah.
4 catches, 28 yards. Ryan Rico didn't punt. Your team only scored 17 points, and you did not punt the football. Missed opportunities on fourth down, couple big turnovers as well for Cincinnati. Philly looks good. Look, they're 5-2, man, and I feel like not a lot of people are talking about it.
Look, Cincinnati is falling down in the rankings here. They're only 3-5, and not enough people are talking about it.
Mm.
How about the now 2-6 Cleveland Browns in this wide open AFC North? Because the Browns beat the Ravens 29-24. Mohamed Diabate had 9 tackles, 1 tackle for loss and a pass breakup, and then your boy Kyle Van Noy, 3 tackles, a pass breakup. They were calling his name on the broadcast. He was
Yeah,
involved even more than just that 3 tackles.
right.
That line will tell you.
Well, I thought Connor, who is a Browns fan, would have picked Cleveland. right?
Yeah.
And at the
No,
last second,
all of us picked
he went
Baltimore.
with Baltimore. He's the first guest to not pick his own team. And to
And it's
my
the first time
knowledge,
you've gotten the guest's
yes,
team pick wrong.
yes, I've
Yeah.
picked against the guest, but I've always gotten it right. Yes,
Hmm.
so kind of a fascinating one there. Yeah, man, shows that quarterback change probably should have happened sooner rather than later. I love,
Jameis.
yeah. Ugh. Well, let's get to the one not close game. And like this was not close at all. Jared Goff throws for under 100 yards, and the Lions, and it's not like they ran for an absurd amount of point yards either. 52-14, Detroit beats Tennessee. The only Utah connection in this game, Sione Vaki had a special teams tackle for the Lions.
But everyone else for the Lions was scoring and making it
Yeah,
happen. That defense made Mason Rudolph's life just chaos. Tanner, I am pleased to inform you the Cardinals beat the Dolphins in Tua's return, 28-27. Kyrus Tonga for the Cardinals at the nose tackle spot had two tackles, and Kyler looked good.
the comeback cards, man. It was looking like I kind of thought it was going to go. Miami at one point led, I want to say 27-18. Uh, every time Arizona started to get back, Miami would make a play, and then Marvin just went off in the second
Yeah.
half. I mean, there was no stopping Marvin. Finally, good to see a consistent game from him. Right, we've seen moments, even that Rams game where his stats looked good. That was all in the first quarter. I mean, so to
Yes.
see him be a little more consistent was awesome. We're doing this with a backup kicker, 3 game-winning field goals by Chad Ryland, man,
Yes.
which is just a great story in itself. And believe it or not, the Arizona Cardinals are in first place in the NFC
Preach
West.
it.
Let's freaking go. Still don't know how this is going to go down, right? Like
Oh, no
this
idea.
the
Especially
wheel.
with Puka and Cooper Cup and
Well,
everyone back for the Rams, even.
I'm more scared of the Rams right now, maybe than anyone else in this division, given what they looked like on Thursday. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the wheels could fall off, right? I mean, the Cardinals aren't deep. There's some concerns still at certain positions, but Jonathan Cannon's got these guys believing, man, and that's an awesome. That's not something I've seen a lot out of Cardinals teams in the past. Genuine just belief. If we can pull Ted Lasso out for that, just
Believe.
just believe. Um, Cole, raise your hand if your team is leading your division after week 8.
Let's
Heyo,
go.
let's do it. Uh, yeah, it was fun. It was. I did follow that. I did pull off and followed the ESPN thing for. Well, I was at lunch. I should say that I was eating
Yeah.
for the end of that game, so I was able to just kind of. Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So, fun couple weeks to be a Cardinal fan. 3 of the last 4 games, and of course, the one game they lose is the infamous tortilla game for me now. So, anyway,
Oh, yeah.
uh, Atlanta gets the sweep on Tampa Bay on the season, 31-26. Tyler Algier, 12 carries, 33 yards. Caden Ellis had 11 tackles, and then Clark Phillips, the third, 3 tackles for Atlanta. No Utah connections with Tampa Bay. I think if the injuries didn't happen to Tampa Bay the week before, that might
Yeah.
have been just enough. Give them credit for fighting, man, but that's just tough. Just tough.
Yeah, Baker's going to keep you in a lot of these games, but we'll see how their depth can just hold up in
Yeah.
general. Green Bay 30, they edge out the Jacksonville Jaguars 30-27. Jordan Love, not the best day at the office,
Got
14 to
hurt.
22, 196, interception doesn't complete the game yet. And then Chris Brooks, 4 carries, 16 yards. Zane Anderson had a tackle. And then over on the Jags side, Devin Lloyd, 3 tackles, including 1 tackle for loss.
So here's an interesting stat for you. Colby Wilkinson, our guest early in the season, has now been to 3 Packers games. He went to this one. He's going to a 4th, by the way. I just found out this week. The Saints game on Christmas Eve. He will be there at Lambeau. Row 2. He sat very low for this game as well. Okay. He has been to 3 Packers games this season, and he has seen Jordan Love play a total of 2.5 quarters in
Ugh.
said games. But they're 3-0. They have not lost when he's been in attendance this year. So,
Right.
kind of an interesting Utah tidbit there.
But so to follow up, because Jordan Love is one of the heroes of our pod, the MRI shows no significant damage.
Right.
But the second time Jordan Love gets a little bit banged up, he plays that reckless style. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Something to keep an eye on for sure. As injuries have kind of been our theme this year. We get Puka back,
Yeah.
and now Jordan Love's hurt again. So Houston beats Indianapolis 23-20. Dalton Shultz, his best game of the year, I thought. 4 catches, 52 yards. Julian Blackman, 8 tackles and a tackle for loss. Matt Gay goes 2 for 2 on field goals with a long of 46. Also 2 for 2 on extra points. And no, I've ever seen a quarterback sub himself out for being tired.
Talk about not finishing the game.
Oh. And like I get if maybe like you're like lightheaded or if you're like
Mhm.
if you're worried about something detrimental happening to your team, but just
Or
the
if you're up by 50, which was
this
not the case. This
but
was close
this
all the
was
way down the stretch.
this was weird. I like to give some people the benefit of the doubt in certain situations, and on a normal day, I would probably give Anthony Richardson the benefit of the doubt. This was weird.
Mm-hmm.
You're a quarterback. I get that you're a running quarterback. I have never seen a quarterback say, "Take." I've seen a receiver after a long play.
Running backs all the time
Running
get a
backs.
spell in here.
Yes, a corner gets a long pick six. They got to stay out for a minute. We saw Parker Kingston on the punt return for BYU. The dude's literally throwing up.
Throwing up on the sideline.
You
Yeah, he
know,
was not back in on the next offensive series, but
you're a quarterback though, man. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's not good. And
I
for
want
good,
to I
it's
want to
it's
learn
not good.
more. There's got to
And
be
agreed.
something to this
Yes,
story. The fact that everyone just jumps on it and it's easy to talk about,
right.
but man, for
It's
all the
weird.
hype that you and I were both getting in on Anthony Richardson, this was his time. He was going to become one of the superstars. We haven't
It
seen
does
it.
it does
He's
not
got
look
these
good.
ridiculous stat lines, completing 2 out of 15 passes and just running 10 times. And
He's the Daniel Jones of Cam Newton's, folks. That's the best way to describe it. It's bad. It's not good in Indy.
the LA Chargers get a win against the Saints, who are getting a couple guys back, right? Taysom Hill played in this game, had 2 receptions, 21 yards, tackle for loss. He was out there on a lot of reps as I was watching this game. It was a thinner afternoon slate
Yeah.
once we got here, and so I was seeing a little bit of Taysom Hill on the field, but still not a ton into the stat sheet. Jamal Williams had 2 carries for 4 yards, but then for the winning Chargers, Aloy Gilman, 5 tackles.
Yeah. Taysom's tackle for loss, by the way, is what led to the safety to start the game. He was the rusher on the off the bad snap that
Yes.
he kind of forced a safety. I don't know if you can really count that as a stat, but yeah, kind of cool for Taysom. Not cool what happened to the Saints the rest of the game. They're so banged
Right.
up and don't have good coaching. So that's a recipe to be a bad team. So Buffalo looked phenomenal. I picked Seattle. I thought this was going to be a much closer. I figured either Buffalo wins big or Seattle wins close. I went with Seattle winning close, and yet I was wrong. Buffalo wins big. Dalton Kincaid, 4 catches, 31 yards, and a score. Taron Johnson had 8 tackles. Cole Bishop also with a tackle for the Bills.
Yeah, this ends up being one of the less entertaining games, and we start having real questions about the Seattle defense
Mm-hmm.
and what their depth is going to end up being.
Right.
Seattle was one of my hopes to overachieve in the offseason. And again, in that wild NFC West, they're still firmly in it, but they haven't looked good, like performing in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Denver Broncos, talking about looking good, even if it's against the worst opposition. There are quality losses and quality wins, and this was neither of those things, but it was a win. Devon Vele gets 3 receptions for 28 yards. Jonah Ellis had 3 tackles, and Cody Barton had 2 tackles. Denver doubles up on the Panthers, 28-14.
Yeah, and talking with some Broncos fans, it sounds like they should have scored some more. So a couple bad fumbles late when the game was out. It was still kind of out of reach. But yeah, Bo Nix looked really good. I mean, the fact that we're saying Bo Nix is a better quarterback than Bryce Young in the year 2024, if you would have told me that's 3 years
And Anthony
ago,
Richardson.
oh yeah. I mean, and this quarterback class, man, which we'll get to here in a minute
Yes.
with the game of the day. Yeah, yeah. Broncos, man, if they can get a split with Kansas City and Baltimore these next 2 games, if they can somehow get a split, that would be massive for their wild card
Mm-hmm.
implications.
And it's got to be a wild card because the only undefeated team is still undefeated and it's in their division.
And that's who we're talking next, Kansas City, Vegas. Cole, I looked at going to this game actually because it was in
In
Vegas well
Vegas.
after I landed. The cheapest ticket available was more expensive than my round trip flight from Orlando to Las Vegas on a
Come on.
weekend last minute.
This
So
that's the
no.
Vegas effect. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
when any team is in town, Vegas is so outnumbered. Vegas has more fans. The Raiders have more fans in South Central LA, where they played what was 1994, like 30 years ago now. They've still got more fans down there in that part of the country than they do in the town that they play right now. Certainly more in Oakland, where they've also abandoned. And now it just becomes, hey, Vegas is the cool sports spot. Come on a trip to Vegas and watch your team beat up on our team that can't get a home field game. And the LA teams are the subversion of that, where
Yeah.
there's a home game in LA every single week because there's two teams sharing the stadium, and come to town, be tourists, and cheer against our teams that don't stand a chance of having home field advantage.
Isn't it interesting? And tickets are out the wazoo. SoFi's at least got some affordable tickets because it's
Mhm.
LA. It's not, but football's still so new to Vegas that yeah, those prices have not gone down in the last couple of years. So
Brutal.
Kansas City wins. No Utah connections other than Andy Reid getting the win as the head coach. Boy,
Game of the day.
boy, this was my phone blew up on the ride home. Knew something had happened here. What a game between Washington and Chicago.
The final score, which does not tell the story of this game.
No, no.
Washington 18, Chicago 15. Bobby Wagner had 7 tackles, a quarterback hit. Jalen Johnson, great defense by the Chicago Bears, and good defense by him on the last play of the game. It was just his cornerback running mate, Tyreek Stevenson, that maybe had some suspect play.
Mm-hmm.
But Jalen Johnson had 2 tackles. Noah Sewell had a tackle. Caleb Williams played just terrible football for 3 quarters. Then they start stringing a couple things together. They take the lead late. Then they have a chance to put it away. They let an offensive lineman get a run, and that doesn't go anywhere. And then, and then
And
Jaden
then
Daniels.
unbelievable. I mean, that's just how this season's gone for Washington. The unlikely has become the impossible, which has then become the possible for them. I
Yeah.
mean, just phenomenal stuff to see that city. Our guest on Wednesday is going to be a current DC resident that's going
Nice.
to talk a little bit about the vibe. Not a Commanders fan by any means, but he's currently living in DC. So there's your little tease for this coming Thursday. Yeah, it was the play of the year. There's anytime you have a situation like that, it just is just cool to see a franchise that's suffered with bad ownership have this quick of a turnaround with good ownership. It's
Mm-hmm.
got to make teams like Carolina sick that just underwent an ownership change and now they're in this hole because of terrible ownership so quickly, so quickly.
Yes. And week 8 used to be the midseason mark. Now, because bye weeks kind of happen before and after, we're like nebulously kind of it. But this is around the time where you start talking about, okay, we're halfway through the season, things are establishing, things are not just a fluke anymore. And this was me when the Lions started getting really good last year. I love when teams can just prove the football consigliere wrong. The
Yes,
way that Washington built up this team, just taking a bunch of old guys that no one thought really had a chance or deserved to be on rosters anymore, Bobby Wagner included.
Zach Ertz, yeah,
Yeah, they were just filling roster spots and making sure there was a veteran presence in the locker room. Turns out that veteran presence in a locker room is really useful to building a winning culture. Dan Quinn seemed like he was the second choice after Ben Johnson, and
mm-hmm.
Jaden Daniels was maybe the third or fourth quarterback on some people's boards in a draft that went 6 deep in the first round. And yet everyone was wrong about Washington. And that's fun
Everyone,
for me. That
yeah,
proves that you
oh,
can
it's
build a football
amazing.
team in many different ways.
I love it. Oh, absolutely love it. Sunday night football. San Francisco defeats Dallas 30-24. Fred Warner was pretty darn good, as he
Mm.
usually is. 8 tackles for loss, pass deflection, and a quarterback hit. Mitch Wishnowsky, 4 punts, 174 yards, just one inside the 20 and a long of 45. So not a good night for Mitch. In fact, Mitch was getting some scrutiny on the call from one Chris Collinsworth. He's no Patrick Mahomes, I can tell you that much.
Ah.
Anyway, Dallas makes a late rally that falls short. A lot of things wrong with both these teams right now.
Mhm.
And both these teams needed a win in the worst way. So it's not looking good in Dallas. I'll leave it at that. Especially given how good Washington and Philadelphia look right now. Dallas is
Yes.
not a playoff team. They're not going to get in if this continues. No run game whatsoever. Yeah.
all of NFL media was very wrong about the Washington Commanders in the preseason. We were all kind of right about seeing this Cowboys collapse coming a mile away from the, all in comments of Jerry Jones. They didn't do anything to actually do that. They're saving their money for when they have to pay their own guys, but they're always the last ones to pay their own guys, so they end up
Yeah.
paying that market premium. They're doing things the wrong way from top to bottom. There were
Yeah.
holes present, and now we're seeing it happen on the football field.
Well, and you're seeing just the fragility of a guy in Jerry Jones who can't own up to anything, absolutely is a coward.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's really, really bad. You're in a good mood though.
It's really good in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Very good in
All
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh does is win in prime time, man. I don't know if you can kind of see it in the sun, but
Oh,
in
yeah.
honor of the color rush that Pittsburgh was wearing, this is my black on black Pirates hat. And the Steelers get the win on Monday Night Football against the New York Giants, as they should, by the way.
Yeah.
This is the Giants.
Yeah.
But it was 26-18, and it was close late, and Beanie Bishop the second gets an interception and seals it away after picking off Aaron Rodgers twice last week.
Mm.
So this undrafted young man is doing fantastic things. Talk about undrafted young men. Jalen Warren was involved, 9 carries, 46 yards. Miles Killebrew, a tackle, special teams captain for the Steelers,
Hmm.
and special teams are going off because Calvin Austin had a punt return
Yeah.
touchdown for the Steelers. So just that whole special teams unit gets to celebrate when cool things happen, including their captain Miles Killebrew. And guess what? The Steelers go into, I think they have a bye week this coming
They
week or
do.
the next, 6-2 at the midseason mark.
Isn't that something? Again, not something I think we would have been talking about. If you would have told me that both of our teams would be in first place after
Yeah.
8 weeks, like, come on, man. I had Arizona winning about 7 games this year. Uh, and that's still very on the table, don't get me wrong, but the schedule
Mhm.
does lighten up a little bit for Arizona. Um,
Seeing for
they're,
the
they're,
Steelers, schedule's about to get
it's
real
about to
hard
get
real
brutal.
fast. And
Yeah.
especially the Bengals and the Browns started off looking very terrible, but the Steelers did get to play them when they were terrible. They're going to start turning the corner, and this Bengals team I still trust that can throw the ball all over the place. And the
Right.
Browns with anyone capable at quarterback is going to be harder to beat than what they were rolling with for the first half. So Steelers still have all of their division games coming up. 9 wins and missing the playoffs, which is what I expected for this team, is still very much on the table. But you built yourself that padded lead that you needed to have. It's celebrating anything, but it's nice. It's better expectations than I thought.
Yeah. Uh, going to be interesting to see how this goes on for both our teams moving forward. So
Yeah.
let's get to MVPs of the week. I'm just going to come out. It's Puka. I mean, to come up
It's
to
Puka.
to basically just not be even a chance of playing, and then playing well on basically a 50% snap count, 60% snap
Yeah.
count, whatever it was. Good for Puka, man. Just awesome. Just an
And
awesome
just
thing to
good
see.
to have you back on our show to
Yeah.
talk about this is the story of last year and coming into just the NFL in general. NFL casual fans couldn't believe that this man was a fifth round pick. And honestly, the BYU fans know it's because of the little bit of injury history and the little bit of up and down play. And so the injuries were going to come eventually, and we were waiting with bated breath, and we hoped it wasn't going to be serious. But when he gets out there, man, Puka is still a special
Hmm.
player, and he's got a clean bill of health going forward.
Yeah. I mean, Fred Warner was good. The Niners needed to win. Fred's always, in the conversation. I thought Dalton Schultz should have been in the
Mm-hmm.
conversation this week. His best game so far this year as well. But and Mohamed Diabate, that's the other name. Guy also who just came back from injury. Uh, yeah, it was on IR as well. And did some great things for the Browns in their win, limiting Lamar
Jalen
Jackson.
Johnson, honestly, becoming a Fred Warner type where we got to mention every single
Yeah,
game. If he doesn't get on the stat sheet as a cornerback, that's a respect thing because
it
people just
is.
are not throwing his way.
Yeah, it really is. So, well, as mentioned, our guest this week has a DC connection because he lives in DC right now. It's the other Wilkinson. Braden's going to be joining us. Not quite as invested in the Colts as he was as a kid, and he mentioned that when he was on the show last year. What he is invested, though, is a good parlay and an over-under. So we will be talking lines this week
Ah,
on Thursday. So, and just that overall vibe in DC, because it's got to be pretty darn good right now. You're a Wizards fan, Cole. That is going about the way the Jazz are going so far to start
yeah.
this year in the NBA. By the way, I'll be in DC the first week of March. We're going for my wife's spring break.
Nice.
Jazz play in DC while we're there. We have already found tickets behind the Jazz's bench for a
Oh
hundred
wow.
dollars, like right behind their bench for a hundred
Yeah, yeah.
bucks. And it's October. So by March, when both these teams have 10, 15 wins,
Combined.
it capture the flag, baby.
Yup.
It's that's gonna look real nice. But anyway, we'll talk a little bit of DC. We'll talk a little bit about what the over underworld looks like out there
Very
with him
cool.
on Thursday. So that should be fun.
It's
Should be
good
a
to be
fun
back with you,
episode.
brother.
Well, man, I know. I was just gonna say it wasn't the same. And
Oh
Connor
yeah.
did a great job. Obviously, he's our pick leader. And it was fun to chat with Connor. So if he stays in the lead, man, we'll have to have him on for playoffs, and you two can chat it up as well as AFC North rivals. And always appreciate you, brother. Glad to have you back.
Heck yeah. Thanks.
He's Cole Wissinger. I'm Tanner Wilkinson, and you're tuned in to Wilk and Wiss, your bi-weekly update of the National Football League, how it relates to you, the Utah, both with athletes with the Utah ties and you, the fan of this big melting pot that we call the state of Utah.